Alright, welcome back to Fantasy Report. I'm Derek, and fuck you, Timmy. So week 2 was probably our best week yet. I mean, y'all gave me way too much to talk about. I'm talking like 8 trades, several arguments, a guaranteed comedian now, 2 name changes, and honestly an overall great week of games. So we'll start with, I'm going to announce the name changes real quick, and then I'll just go into the recap of the games like I normally would. So, a beloved team to its city. A lot of people will probably still only recognize them as ... after this. But they have decided to rebrand, and they will be going by Gaekwon, you see. Of course, Joe Mama, after a slow start, decided it needed a rebranding to hopefully just fix their woes, get them out of their funk. They revealed their team name as S3E3 and also gave the fans a look at the new jerseys this week, so we'll go ahead and look at that real quick. Hopefully things work out for the both of them, except against me, of course. So let's get on to the games. I got butt fucked by Timmy. He put up near historic numbers. Like, I'm talking Tim. That man put up prime Danny numbers. He totaled 186.28. He beat the booth by 60. It was not a good game. Big Trev, he was down by 19 going into Monday with Knox left to play. It looked likely. Lil Trev did not have anybody else left to play, and he failed to crack even 100, so he really had a polar opposite game from what he's been having all season, in my opinion, especially last week. Lucky for him, Trevor was just as bad again. He needed Knox to score about 20 to notch the upset victory. Yeah. He scored 8. So lukewarm won because he went up against the guy who scored the least amount of points for, let's count it, the second week in a row. So the Buffalo Bills were down by 80 to Pap going into Monday. He only had 3 Bills players left to play. Those players ended up combining for a total of 18. So last year's champion finds himself 0-2 after only outscoring one person in the league. He only managed to score 1 more point than him, so, I mean, if that says anything. He also did not make any trades to improve his team. He might be bad. Not much to say about Communist Smell in Rubo's game. Rubo needed Miles Sanders to score 74 for him for that one to have a chance. Obviously, that didn't happen, and he lost by 63. Codeine went into Monday down 55 to 124 with only 3 players left to play. It was possible, as he did have the only 2 Bills players that aren't on Christopher's roster, and Devontae Smith. Smith scored only about 15, which on a normal day would be bad for this situation, but Josh Allen and Diggs combined for 75 points, which means Smith could have scored another goose egg, and he still would have won. Good chance we're looking at the scariest duo in the league. And finally, we get to our game of the week. This one came between Milk and Zilf. It was actually pretty shitty, for the most part, like performance-wise, as it was really just low scoring. But damn, was it close. Going into Monday, Milk mustered 81 with King Henry left to play, while Zilf also had 81 with AJ Brown left to play. It was tight all the way through, as both players put up subpar numbers throughout the game. Unfortunately, Brown only came away with 12 points. Fortunately, Henry played just as bad, getting 8 points. So that leaves Dan the Milkman in 0-2 as well. Before I get into the trades, I do want to mention a few things first. To start, Christopher is still adding Bills players to his roster. I see this really being a consistent story throughout the rest of the year. There's only 4 teams left with a chance at a perfect season. Well, like a perfect losing season. That would be Trevor, Rubo, Milkman, and the Buffalo Bills. They all find themselves sitting at 0-2. While on the opposite side of that, Billy, Bilk, Booty, and Zilf all remain undefeated at 2-0. We'll be keeping a close eye on those teams moving forward, of course, although I would rather see a perfect losing season. So, go Bills. We've got a lot of trades to go over, so I'm going to have to get into that before this turns into another 30-minute video. Go ahead. And guess who made the first trade of the season? It's the same guy who always makes the first trade of the season. The man with no loyalty to any player in fantasy football, Commissioner Egg. He made a trade with JC, giving Fennell, James Conner, Mike Evans, and Michael Thomas. Because, Lord forbid, Fennell just drafts Evans. I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Commissioner trade for Mike Evans in more seasons than I haven't. JC got good value from the trade, receiving A.J. Brown in the deal. He also got Lenny Fournette. And Fennell also traded him the Jacksonville version of DJ Chark. This trade just kind of felt a little unnecessary for JC. Obviously, he upgrades his running back, which I felt was a must with James Conner. He couldn't risk an injury, really. But he's really just putting himself in a bit of a predicament in the receiver spot. A.J. Brown is equal to, if not better than MT, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that part of the trade. But losing Mike Evans for DJ Chark, that's where this trade really concerns me. Chark feels like an afterthought. Detroit's a really high-power offense right now, so yes, you would want somebody in that, but in all reality, you want St. Brown or TJ Hawkins ain't even doing shit either. Swift. I think that's the only two. Really, he's used just as a vertical threat. He's still capable of averaging maybe 13 with how good the Lions are playing, but for Evans, that's where you lost me. Anyways, I gotta give JC a C+ because he did upgrade his running back, but overall, I just felt he hurt his team. Fennell gets an A, as he doesn't need to start Conner, and he didn't really need Lenny, to be honest. He gets an equal value receiver in return for MT, and obviously just steals Mike Evans here. Communist wins this trade. Next one was also a confusing one to me. Trevor traded away Myers and Burkhead for Jarvis Landry. I'm just going to put it to you simply. Cody absolutely won this trade. Landry, like every season, has about 4 or 5 outliers in his scores, where he just goes off for about 17 to 21 points. The rest of his games sit around 8. It's a shaky flex option, but you could start him at flex sometimes. But losing Jacoby Myers is where this trade confuses me. Trevor at this point lacked in a lot of areas, and he trades away someone that I feel was a starter on his team for someone worse. I feel like Myers is set to at least have a big year in terms of fantasy. Like, he could definitely be a consistent flex option this year, I think. But Rex Burkhead is just kind of in this trade. I don't know why Cody would need extra convincing to get a better receiver for nothing, but whatever. I mean, it's fucking Burkhead. He's really just there as an insurance back. Trevor gets a D for this trade, as it just really didn't make any sense whatsoever. It just feels like he forgot that Michael Thomas and Olave exist, so Landry is not going to do that every week. Cody gets an A, not because this trade is like, oh wow, like, holy crap, he upgraded. But really, he got a better receiver and an insurance back for a worse receiver. That's solid. Next one up is the worst trade of the week. The worst trade of the week. It's equivalent to if Alex said yes to the trade Zach offered involving CMC for Gaskins and OBJ. And before I get into this trade, I will say regardless if Ben was practically begging us to let that trade go through. This should have been vetoed. Which brings me to my point. We have a serious voting problem in this league. We really gotta start voting as a group. So things like this just stop happening. Speaking of voting problems, still only 6 people voted on the waiver problem, which we have went over so many times to go ahead and vote. Which means half the league owners are not participating, in helping this league stay functioning and not become a train wreck that Fennell is spiraling us downwards towards.
My name is Adam Couch, and I approve this message.
Where Fennell snagged the number 1 running back in fantasy, Nick Chubb, an absolute unit, and got CeeDee Lamb. It's fucking week 2. He's been targeted 11 times in both games. He's gonna average 15 to 18 easy. And not to mention, he was Ben's keeper last year. And what did Ben get in return for this trade? If you guessed a literal pile of shit, that's better than what I'm about to tell you. He got Hollywood Brown, whose ceiling is a wide receiver too. But he's a borderline flex option right now with D-Hop out. And he also got David Montgomery, who's a solid running back, but in no way, shape, or form is he Nick Chubb. This trade is the definition of tanking to become a comedian. Fennell gets an A+++, while Ben gets an F. I don't have to explain any further. Next up, we have our third trade with Fennell. Again, who's now accounted for 75% of the league's trades. And this one happened with me. I always find it a little difficult to rate my own trades because I'm biased when I'm openly biased. But this one was easy. I felt like if Fennell was in need of a backup QB with Justin Herbert, giving him that scare earlier, he's gonna be fine, I think. So I feel like he panic traded a little bit. And he got Tua, and Tua's great, but he gave me Bateman and Mariota. And I just had to give him Tua and the guy who has to catch passes from Justin Fields. Anyways, I feel like Fennell gets a B-. He's now stuck with Darnell Mooney, who is also stuck on the other end of Justin Fields' passes. So he definitely downgrades receivers. He also didn't need Bateman. He doesn't lose a lot. I just don't think he gains enough. Because obviously the QB swap is great for him. Mariota's probably not even going to start by the end of this year, in my opinion. I'm going to have to give myself a B. Obviously, I lose my backup QB, which would really hurt if Hurts gets hurt. Next trade is really the big reason why I accepted the Fennell trade. This one was between me and Trevor. We worked out a deal where I sent him Bateman and Hunt, and I get Javonte Williams. I most likely lost this trade in the long run. Hunt is just too shaky of a running back too for me, and that's where I had to play him at. He's too up and down, but he is the best insurance back in the league, and immediately becomes a top 5 running back if Chubb goes down. Bateman should also continue to be the Ravens' number 1. And I took on Williams, who I feel is set to have a big year. Obviously, the week 1, that was a fluke. He ain't getting 12 targets a game. He'll probably range around 4 to 5 a game, I would hope. But his run game should also be a whole lot easier for him as long as Russ starts figuring his shit out. Because right now it's rough. I give myself a B for this trade because if Williams doesn't pan out as a top 15 back or Nick Chubb goes down, then I basically lost too much to justify the trade. Trevor gets an A for this one. He needed a wide receiver, and he got one. And he also downgrades running backs. I mean, Kareem Hunt's averaging more than Javonte Williams. Next up, Alex hopped in the trade party. He made a deal with Trevor to upgrade his tight end position. He received Kittle and MPJ and only had to lose Kirk and Clyde in the process. He never even needed to start Clyde and massively upgraded his tight end and gets a better wide receiver 2 out of the deal. Trevor, who needed a running back after trading Williams away, he got one, but downgraded on the receiver end. He didn't downgrade much, and he didn't even play, or he hadn't played Kittle one game. That could come back to haunt him. Trevor gets a B+ for this trade after getting a solid running back 2, but lost his clear wide receiver 1 in the process. Still a great trade for him. Alex gets an A, as he already had Michael Carter, who's more than capable of being a running back 3, so losing Clyde doesn't really hurt him. He upgrades his wide receiver 2 and massively upgrades his tight end. Great trade in my opinion. So Ben made another trade, and like his last trade, this one also makes no sense at all. He traded Higbee for Waller, so I'm assuming he wanted to upgrade his tight end, but he really only does it slightly because Higbee was pretty good. But then he traded David Montgomery for D-Hop, and I like D-Hop. He'll be good in 4 weeks when he's back from his suspension, a time that I don't really think Ben has to wait on. But losing Montgomery for that just leaves Ben without a good running back 2. He has Harris and Jamal Williams, but you can't help but think, why do this for a slight upgrade at your tight end position and add D-Hop, who's a great receiver, but he's gone half of the season. Look, Ben gets a D for this trade. It's really not the worst thing in the world if D-Hop pans out, but it's pretty bad. Rubo wins this trade with an A-. He gets a solid running back 2 to replace Sanders and only has to downgrade a tight end a little bit. And finally, we reach our last trade of the week. I feel like this is, I'm not in the editing process, but I feel like this is about to be like 13 minutes of the video is me explaining fucking trades. Anyways, this one came from Rubo and JC. They came together for a decent trade, honestly. JC felt he needed a running back 3 better than Edmonds, and relieves Ruben of his awful decision to draft Zeke. Rubo also trades Miles Sanders away, losing both of his mediocre running backs. JC has to give away Najee Harris, Chase Edmonds, and Noah Brown in this deal. The running back swap was about even. As far as talent combined goes, Ruben gets a worse running back 3. Actually, he has Jacobs, so running back 4. He's getting a better running back 1 in return. JC gets a better running back 3, but what I don't understand is Noah Brown. JC's already struggling at wide receivers, and he makes a move for running back insurance and manages to lose one of his better scoring receivers in the process of getting insurance. Because of his receiver woes, JC gets a B+. Ruben doesn't need Chase Edmonds. He's a running back 4 on his roster. And he gets a solid receiver and a better running back in the process. Ruben gets an A. So after going over the 8 trades, I decided to run them through the standard American grading system to find what everyone's total grade for week 2 on their trade knowledge, I guess. Trade grading for week 2. Anyways, they are as followed. Fennell got 275 out of 300 total, giving him a 91.6%, giving him an A. JC got 168 out of 200 total, giving him an 84%, giving him a B. I got 170 out of 200%, giving me an 85%, giving me a B. Trevor got a 249 out of 300, giving him an 83%. Giving him a B as well for the week. Ruben got 185 out of 200 total, giving him a 92.5%, also giving Ruben an Ben got 115 out of 200 total and got a 57.5%, giving him a total of an F. Alex scores a 95 out of 100, giving him a 95%. Cody also does the same things. Both of them only made one trade. Both of them scored an A, so their average was going to be an A. With that being said, I also went through everyone's teams and graded them based around the same math, since I did the whole percentage to last place thing, and y'all kind of went crazy on trades after that. I would like to apologize though for last week's video. I may have a little bit too hard at everyone, except for Trevor. He deserved it. Because of that, I feel like I'm partially responsible for this massive trade outbreak. I didn't fully realize the amount of power this show has. Trade outbreak, power. This show has power, except for Trevor. He deserved it. I'm nothing but a platform. Anyways, you'll have to find out next week if I think you suck or not, because it's time for an ad. So Clown of the Week would have been a really hard decision for me this week. Well, except you know what happened. So before I get into the obvious winner, I do want to go through a few honorable mentions because y'all was actually wildin' this week. First one goes out to both Luke and Trevor for defending that shitty Landry trade before Myers threw up 18 and Landry dropped 4. Can't remember a time I was wrong. Dog shit trade. Second one goes out to Ben for his dog shit trade with Ruben. And I mean, like, Trevor would be getting an A+ for his first trade with Landry if we were going to go grading these based on Ben being the standard. Third one goes out to Cam Jones. Fourth and final honorable mention before we get into Clown of the Week. Finelli Smelly Commissionelli. For forgetting what team DJ Chark played for, and possibly JC as well, if Fennell used that same argument when trying to trade him. I know you guys been waiting for this, but the Clown of Week 3. Give it up for Ben. The owner of the worst managed team in football, not for simply making the trade with Fennell. Not for just making CeeDee Lamb with 11 targets a game sound like a burden. Not just because I had to give you an honorable mention along with the award for your other borderline tanking trade, and not because you chose to trade Montgomery when Ruben would have taken Harris, but because you are the one who sat down and offered those trades. Look, Ben, just take your award. Your team's performance will most likely do the rest of the talking for me. Congrats on being the only person to ever be the Clown of the Week and an honorable mention. It's a historic moment. Great week, guys. Good job, Ben. Which should also be a pretty good week is this week. Well, at least I'm predicting that. So the first game we're Anyways, this was a fun week talking about trades with you guys. Come back next week, of course, for when I'll be talking about who I think personally sucks in this league. Also, we may just find out if I ever talk about any of the pending lawsuits again and fear of another FBI investigation. Godspeed from the Cock and Ball Torture Organization. And good luck to everybody except for Commissioner 4 and 5.